Good afternoon, and welcome to Straight Talking with Kelly, where real conversations happen. This is where you will meet some of the most talented, intelligent, and creative people who come to share tips, resources, and knowledge on various topics. The guests come from many industries that include education, music, television, radio, theater, fashion, culinary arts, and so much more. Join me today with my guest, Miss Lady Ray. She is an on-air personality and also a community engagement director. And she'll talk to you a little bit more about all of the things that she does, and won't you be surprised? So welcome, Miss Lady Ray.
Thank you, Kelly. So excited to join you. We might have my 4-year-old in the background joining us as he gets ready to take off.
But you know, I think that's a beautiful thing, because what we're going to be talking about too is your journey with motherhood and being an on-air personality. So it's
Yes,
appropriate that he is making his presence known.
for sure, for sure. Thank you so much for having me today.
Oh, absolutely. So before we get started with our conversation, I would actually like to read a little bit of your bio.
Okay.
Lady Ray has been a part of the radio industry for more than a decade. That dream of being in the radio industry began as a young girl when she and her cousins created their own radio station using an old tape deck and mics. They recorded breaks and even played special requests for their listeners. As a Cal student, Lady Ray co-hosted the afternoon news at the campus radio station KAL-X. During her junior year of college, she got her start at KMEL as an intern. And 7 months later, she was hired in promotions and went on to produce the morning show, where she has been ever since. As a part of the Santa G Morning Show, you can catch her Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. through 10, giving you the traffic to get you where you need to be. Wake up with Lady Ray Saturdays at 8 a.m. to 11 to get what's new on KMEL and in the streets. And then we haven't even talked about the community engagement part. So we'll get to that a little bit later. So again, welcome. So Lady Ray, tell me a little bit about your background, like where you were born and raised and the schools you attended.
Yeah, so I was actually born in the peninsula, right in San Mateo, raised between, Pacifica and San Francisco, spent a lot of time in Glen Park because I went to elementary and middle school in Glen Park over at St. John's there. Shout out to the Eagles.
Okay.
And then, from there, I transitioned over to the East Bay, moving to Concord, which was actually a pretty huge culture shock for me because I grew up in the city. And I had friends of all different cultures. Everybody, shared their cultures, and it was culture shock in the opposite, right? Because when I got to Concord, and this is in the late 90s, kids are still segregated. Like my Black friends would sit here, my Filipino friends would sit here, my Latino friends were here. And then I even noticed, that the white kids on campus still wore Confederate flags, and they were, just really, for lack of a better word, ignorant, right?
Okay.
And like I said, we're talking late 90s, and I was completely like taken aback by this. And so my cousin and I started a Black student union because there wasn't one on campus. And then we used that opportunity to work with the other cultural groups to create a multicultural day. We brought a winter dance to the campus, and all of that. The goal was to have these conversations and to really, bridge that gap between these communities and create some common space. And so, that was very, exciting to be a part of. And then from there, I went straight to Cal, moved in on campus. You were going to say something? Sorry.
Well, you know what? The funny thing, just listening to you, I'm like, okay, so I'm not surprised about your community engagement now, because you were a little activist back then.
Yeah.
So I just had to say that. So yeah.
I mean, it's pretty much in my blood. I mean, I've got family that is, really vocal. And, I come from actually a family of musicians. And so I've been around the music industry my whole life. And so this kind of like idea of expression and, just being who you are and being happy to be who you are is something that's been ingrained in me. And really this social justice piece is also something that's been ingrained in me. And I from all the strong women in my family, both on my mom's side and my dad's side, it was always this feeling of like, making sure your presence is known in the best way possible. And so,
Yeah.
I am grateful to have the opportunity to use my voice because, as we both know, we've got elders whose voices didn't get heard a lot of the time. And so it's our job to make them proud now that we're able to have a voice and use it.
Oh, girl, I cannot wait to get into this. You are awesome. This is so beautiful. I
Thank you.
love seeing young people come up and, you know, taking the torch and just keeping it moving because it's
Yes.
so important to do that. And we'll talk about that a little bit later because we had that conversation a little bit earlier on. So now talk to me, how did you get started in radio? I know you actually said a little bit about that, but give me the real skinny.
Yeah, I mean, it was interesting because when I came in as a freshman at Cal, I was that kid that was like, I want to see every club. I want to find out what is going to mesh well with me and my schedule and my interests. And so they had an info night for the radio station. And I had never, really thought about it outside of the fact that me and my cousins would play around with a tape deck when we were younger. I didn't think of it as like a career. And so I went to this info night and really I was just going to meet people and find out about the different activities on campus. And one of the students got up and talked about his experience. And he was like, yeah, I've been covering the sports events. And he's like, I travel with the teams. I get to go to wherever they play. We do different events outside of the main thing that he said was, I traveled with them to Hawaii and got to cover the games. And I was like, hold up, sign me up. I want to travel. I want to, report for this radio station. And so I went and they said, come down, you can get started with us. And so once I got started, they were like, wait a minute, you don't just get put on the travel team. Like you got to work your way up. And so I started with news and it was really exciting because it was an actual like college radio newsroom where like we would come in, pitch our stories. I mean, within the hour we're on air delivering those stories. And, it really was an exciting way to dive in. And so I decided my junior year, I was like, I'm ready to see where else this can go. And so I got an internship with iHeartRadio. And that internship started off in the mornings and it was 6 a.m. in the morning. And a lot of people don't really want to get up, at that hour. And I was like, sign me up because I'm a morning person. I can do the morning show, get done, get back to Cal and do my classes. And so it totally fit my schedule.
That's
and
beautiful.
it actually helped me, further myself quicker because I was doing morning drive already. And that's like the prime time. And so I got to learn from some of the best that have been doing it for decades. I got to meet a lot of people, and not only from my radio station, but, iHeart actually owns 7 radio stations in San Francisco. So I was, working with folks like Renell, who has been a radio legend for so long.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And folks like, Chuy Gomez, I was his producer for many years, his co-host for many years. And it was just these opportunities and these chances to really be a sponge and like learn from these folks, and not only like learn from them in like an indirect way, to learn from them directly, like be right there, their right hand through a lot of things was probably the most valuable thing that I could have asked for. And, producing the morning show meant that I would get up at like 3-4 in the morning. And sometimes because, we are a more youth oriented station, we would have events that went until 1-2 in the morning. And so I'd be at like a movie premiere or like, a concert, and then have to turn around and get right back up again as though I got 8 hours of sleep and, carry on a full show. So it was exciting. And it's something, made for someone in their 20s that could like bounce back.
You know what? I was actually getting ready to say that, when you're young and full of excitement,
right.
You can do all of that. You can party and then get up and do it. And then too, plus you were loving what you do.
Exactly. And it never felt like work, right? Like it was always, and that's the one thing that I always tell young folks that are kind of searching for that job or searching for that career, find something that you love doing, because then it's not going to feel like work ever. And, like I said, I was in my 20s. And so I was not tied down. I didn't have responsibilities outside of, housing and feeding myself, right? So it was really cool because, I would get to cover movie premieres and TV show premieres, and they would fly me out to like LA and New York. And I remember, getting an email saying, hey, can you fly out to New York tomorrow and cover the biopic for Notorious B.I.G.? And I was like, yes, put me on a plane. So they flew me out. I got to interview, the full cast, including, the gentleman that played Notorious B.I.G. Angela Bassett was one of our interviews. That was a powerful moment. And then the cool thing about that whole experience was that Notorious B.I.G.'s mom took all of us radio DJs on this big double-decker bus and basically took us on a tour of like where he grew up and where he went to school, and showed us, sat on the bus with us and did all this with us. And so it just really felt authentic, So, these types of experiences, not many people get to have. And like I said, it was during my 20s. And so it was really exciting to meet, artists and actors and, folks that I look up to or enjoy their work, and get to actually have a conversation with them and then bring it back and share it with our audience. I was blessed to have the opportunity to broadcast live from Disneyland a few times. For the inner kid in me was like, amazing, right? Because it's not just that you're broadcasting from Disneyland, but they literally shut the park down for you. So we did one where we were covering the Pirates of the Caribbean premiere. And so it was like all the actors from the Pirates of the Caribbean, other Hollywood stars, and then they shut the park down for all of us. So you'd be in line waiting for a ride with like an actor that you just watched on the screen. You're like, what is happening right now? Like, what is this? So, I'm like I said, a lot of hard work, a lot of crazy hours. And I got to do a lot of traveling. So during my 20s, it was like, okay, this is the time to do it and enjoy it. Yeah.
Okay. So then after all of that, then you became the community's, talk about.
Yeah. So like you said, I've always had that community piece kind of, it's just in my fabric. And so actually I started doing that early on. And that's really how I, kind of laid my footing, because I started off as an intern and on the street scene, which meant that I was driving the trucks, going out to these events, wearing the KMEL t-shirts and representing the station. And so they were saying, we really need someone who can, be our like direct person to the colleges and to the community. And I was like, I'm ready. I'll do it. Like, it's not a problem. So I basically worked with our promotions director to create kind of like a huge master list of like contacts of like community colleges and universities, and just really trying to create a way that we could support what they had going on and then also promote the radio station. So what that meant is like, being in touch with the BSUs, being in touch with, the various student organizations, and finding out, hey, oh, you guys have an event. Can we come out and provide music for it? Can we, do those things? And so that kind of was my start. And then it grew from there, because I had so many community contacts that it turned into, oh, Ray, I graduated college and I've started this nonprofit. Is there something you guys can do to help publicize the work that we're doing in the community? And so I turned to my program director and basically said, I have so many people that are doing such great work and no one knows about these services. Like, what can we do? And so she was like, you can start scheduling PSAs. And I was like, okay, done. And so there's so many resources out there that not a lot of people know about, that I think is like the key, right? Not everyone knows that you can get financial and various counseling support classes if you want to build an additional unit on your property. A lot of people don't know that there is free food that you can pick up. Maybe your check is a little short this month and you're trying to make sure that your kids can eat. They don't know that there are these places that you can go and not feel like you're so like in this like negative space, right? Like, these places are really just trying to help out. And places that have created community libraries or are looking for people to come and read to the youth and help you on your career building skills. Like, there's so many cool organizations we even had our, one of the first, actually, he is the first Black valedictorian at Oakland Tech High School. He started a science kit organization where they literally just put together these science kits and they get them out to youth so that they have activities to do, after school and during summer,
That's
So anyhow,
beautiful.
just working with the community, and then what that turned into was, okay, Ray, you're doing so good bringing these messages to KMEL, can you do it for the whole cluster? And so I started doing it for all the radio stations, and then working with bigger nonprofits, and then also producing our public affairs show. And so that's like an opportunity for nonprofits to come on and have a more longer form space to talk about the work that they do in the community. And so it's been really exciting because my job is to find the good people in this world. And
Aw.
there's so many out there, and it really just reminds you that, despite the negativity that we see, despite, all of these like heart-wrenching moments that we're seeing, school shootings, just the stuff we see on the daily, it is so great to see folks doing great work and still doing it day in and day out, whether they get the highlight or the shine or not.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. When you talked about the public affairs, I know a lot of radio stations has stopped doing public affairs. So they're getting back into it, or is it just your station that's doing it?
I can't speak for other companies, but our company has never stopped.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah. And so each of our stations has a show that's built into our programming, whether it be 30 minutes, an hour. We also have Street Soldiers, which is a 2-hour program on KMEL. I mean,
Oh, Street Soldiers, that's Joe Marshall. Lord knows.
yeah,
My
Dr.
daughter was
Marshall.
one of his little street soldiers. He's been
Nice.
around. He's wonderful. Absolutely.
Yeah, Dr. Marshall is a great guy and such a
Yeah.
pillar in the community. And they just did a Father's Day show that just, yeah, he's amazing, and the work he does with the youth is out of this world. So
Yeah. Yeah.
like I said, our stations we really pride ourselves in the community aspect of it. I mean, not only on a local level, but on a national level. The company itself has over 800 radio stations, and each of them has, a public affairs piece built into their broadcast. And so it's really important for us, not only for the local connection, but really just to have that space to highlight, the good work that people are doing. I mean, like I said, these folks, like, they go out and they collect donations, and they go out and they disperse them, and they go out and they provide
Yeah.
access to all kinds of resources, and sometimes people just don't know they're there.
Yeah.
Or on the flip side, there's people that are listening that are like, I want to support something, I don't know where to put my dollars.
Yes.
And it's like, here you go. So
Yeah.
excuse me, it's just a beautiful opportunity.
So now we had a conversation about community service, remember? And as it pertains to youth. And you kind of touched on some of it through this conversation. What do you think is the most important reason for giving back and sharing what you learned with the youth?
I think the first thing is that in order for you to grow, you have to raise a successor. So you can't move up until someone can take your position. So
Girl, say it again. Hello.
yeah, unless you're pulling somebody up with you, it's the only way. And so, another thing that someone told me before is, the only way to really show that you've mastered something is to be able to teach it to someone. And so all of that coupled together, including the fact that, we're not going to be here forever. So we've got to raise capable people. And so
Yeah.
that's the way. That's the only way, is to pay it forward and to really uplift our youth. And honestly, our youth are so, I mean, they're just amazing. Like, they're so their intelligence is tapped into at such a young age nowadays, that they're the
Yes.
ones who are coming up with all these innovative ideas. They're the ones that are coming up with groundbreaking things that we could have never thought of. And it's really because they still have the ability to tap into their imagination, and they're
Yes.
still living in that space of like limitless thinking. And so
Yeah.
that, I believe, is really the importance, is to give them a space to actually flourish.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Now let's talk about motherhood. and how vital it is. So talk to me about what it's like being a mom of a rambunctious 4-year-old.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty amazing, and I'm so grateful to be a mom. And honestly, I feel like I had twins without having twins because my kids are so close in age and they look just alike. And I'm so
Okay.
grateful to have a boy and a girl. My son is 4, my daughter's 2. She'll tell you she's 17 though. I didn't even know she could count that high.
Okay.
But she told me I'm 17 and I have a license, so I drive. And so
Oh my
times refusing
goodness.
to get into her car seat. So that's our current battle right now, is get in the car seat. And it's really such a mirror check having children, because they do things and say things and make faces that you're like, oh my God, that's what my face looks like. Like, I really got to check my attitude, because that sassiness, I did not realize my level of sass was on that level. So it's really a mirror check, and it really requires you to tap into the best part of you and give that to the world.
That is
And,
beautiful.
you know, no matter how many sleepless nights, no matter how many poop diapers and potty training mishaps we have, I'm so grateful that these 2 little people call me mom. And I'm also really grateful that the line of work that I'm in and the technology that we have, I'm able to work from home. So I broadcast from home. By the time I'm done with the morning show, they're getting up and just kind of starting their routine, so I can just kind of jump in. And then I do things throughout the day that are all remote, which is really, really great. And it's such it's just so rewarding. Like I said, we have our days where I'm like pulling my hair, I'm juggling 10 things, and without the village that supports me, I wouldn't be able to survive. And so my mom, my brother, my family, it's all around me. The support system is just really vital. And to any moms who are tuned in that are chasing your career goals, thinking about starting that business, thinking about going after that promotion, you can do it. You can do it
Yeah.
all. And
Yeah.
a lot of it has to do with the support that you have around you, and just making sure that your support system is really, really strong, because it will help you in the most hectic times in your life. So
Yeah,
uh,
and you're right. It does take a village. Now, you just said something. You mentioned your mom. So that was my next question to you.
yeah.
What have you learned from your mom that you're going to pass down to your children?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the main things that I've learned from her is not only strength, but also appreciation, and really just appreciating your life, your family, and not begrudging your circumstances, and really challenging them so that you can actually break through them, and attain some of the goals that you have set out to attain. And a lot of times we're faced with circumstances that are just like, okay, well, this is where I was born. This is the family that I'm that I'm born into, and this is the life that I'm supposed to know. It's challenging that, and saying, you know what, I want more out of life. I want to achieve more, and I want to be able to help more people, and also really just open up your life. And so I think those are the main things that I've learned from my mom, and I really aim to show to my children.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Now, what has been the most challenging part of motherhood? And then how do you deal with it? Because I know it's not all peachy keen.
Yeah, it's not. It's really not. And the thing about I think one of the most challenging things in the beginning was realizing, like, okay, this is really tough, but it's gonna get tougher. Like, there are stages to this, and this is not like, it's not just gonna get easy, right? My son is actually he's on the spectrum, so that has been really challenging. Just learning how to talk to him, learning how his mind kind of works and how he learns. And so that whole journey is just barely starting. And so it's something that, we're constantly growing with, and something that we're all, you know, learning as we go. And so that's probably been the most challenging. And also having a neurotypical child who is developing, you know, beyond her age,
Okay.
is helpful, right? But it is challenging at the same time, trying to keep their activities, you know, or their different levels kind of balanced. But yeah, it's a constant learning experience. It's like
Yeah.
honestly growing up with your children a little bit, because you're kind of bringing yourself back to like, okay, well, what was I doing around this age, and how did I break through that? And so it's every day is an adventure, let's just say that.
Oh, absolutely. So now what family memory will you cherish forever? And I mean, I'm sure there's more to come, but as
Yeah.
from now.
There are so many, but my son, you know, like I mentioned, he's on the spectrum, and so he does have speech delay.
Okay.
And so my birthday last year, I remember getting him ready for bed, laying down, getting ready to read him a book, and he actually pushed the book down and he started singing me happy birthday. And
Oh,
I mean, obviously we had been talking about, oh, my birthday's coming, it's this weekend, da, da, da. And I was like, oh my gosh, he knows.
oh, isn't that
So,
sweet?
and so I'm like trying to hurry up and get my phone so I can record him. And I'm like, and I record him and I got a piece of it, but it's like, you know, tears are just gushing down my face. I'm crying like a little baby. And, you know, just moments like those, it's just like unforgettable. You know?
Oh, and he must have lit up when he saw you being so happy and
Oh yeah,
surprised. Yeah,
for
yeah.
sure. For sure.
Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to switch gears a little
Yeah.
bit. And I'd like to ask you to name 3 people that have inspired you.
3 people that have inspired me, obviously, my mom is one of them. Also on the list, and might sound funny, but Oprah definitely inspired
Girl,
me.
no, because that's my girl. They don't sound
Yes,
funny to me.
yes. And you know, she just really made us women so empowered
Yes.
and so, you know, inspired to do something outside of the box, that yeah, she definitely is on the list. And third, for inspiration, this is tough. Like it's kind of like ever changing. But I definitely would probably want to have, yeah, it's pretty tough, but you're gonna think this is funny, but I would put Missy Elliott on my list.
Girl, no, you know what? See, it's not funny. Missy Elliott is the bomb. That
she
child got talent.
she is talented, she is legendary, she is unique.
Yes.
And she, you know, early on decided that she wasn't going to be anything that anyone told her to be, and really just found her own voice.
Yeah.
And she's still doing stuff in 2022 that blows my mind. And it's just so empowering to have these women, and not just women, but women of color,
Yes.
really just be their own person in their own space and create their own space, really. And so that has been really inspirational to me.
Now, can I ask you, why did you think that that would sound, you know, and you were hesitant to say it? What was that all about?
I just think that everyone, you know, kind of has like their go-to list. And these are people that I also look up to, like Maya Angelou and you know, even Coretta Scott King. Like these are people that you would normally go to. And mine are so like off the beaten path that I feel like it's kind of like, oh, okay, I didn't even think of that, you know. So I mean, it wasn't really hesitation, it was more just like, okay, how do I word this right? Because these are women that, you know, really require the right words. They're so, you know, just legendary, you know, that they require the correct words.
Yeah, no, Missy Elliott is definitely considered iconic.
For sure.
Yeah, she is definitely iconic. So when you said it, and it's like people like that you're right. I wouldn't have thought you would have said that, but I'm glad you did.
Yeah.
I'm glad you did, because she also needs to be brought to the forefront.
For sure.
So now, what would the 9-year-old Lady Ray say to the adult Lady Ray today?
the 9-year-old will probably say, save some money. Because I'm all about, experiences and really just, getting out into the world. And so, yeah, I mean, I think 9-year-old me probably would have also said, get some sleep. Because I'm very much known for burning both sides of the candle. And I also think 9-year-old me would probably tell adult me to start eating vegetables much younger. I now enjoy vegetables, but it just was not something that wasn't always ingrained into my daily life. And so I think 9-year-old me, if she could be like, listen, let's just start that a little earlier, would definitely benefit from that.
That's beautiful. I'm sure you probably are making other people think twice about that. So before we end, would you like to leave some parting words with our audience to let them know how they can reach you?
Yeah, I mean, I think the main thing is, if you have a nonprofit, if you have a community organization and you're, trying to get the word out about the amazing resources that you're offering to the community, that's one reason to reach out. Of course, you can reach me at ladyray@iheartmedia.com. I also MC events. So if you need a host or anything along those lines, that's another reason to reach out. And definitely just, stay tuned in. We appreciate you listening to KMEL. I'm also on in 12 other markets on our throwback station. So we play, hip hop and R&B from like the 80s and the 90s. And you can catch me on those stations. And then also, just giving a quick big shout out to the National Coalition of Black Women and just, really inspiring Black women that are, in so many industries and really staying connected and getting that community and getting that communication is such an important thing. So if you're looking for a way to connect with other like-minded women, that's definitely a place to start.
Thank you for that. And yes, and I'm actually one of the instructors for this program that they have, getting young women and women of color into jobs. So it is wonderful. And Jackie Wright is the one who is heading that program up, and she's the one who connected me with you.
Yes.
Yeah. So I just think that there is a lot to be done. There is a lot being done. Mm-hmm. And it's good people like you that are continuing to make it happen. And I appreciate the fact that you're passing that torch on to other young people, because that's what it's all about.
Yes.
The more we lift people up, the better off,
yes.
It'll be. And even if you just change one life, that counts.
For sure. For sure.
Yeah.
It totally counts. It definitely counts. And I'm just, like I said, just grateful for the opportunity to be on your podcast and also to connect with you, stay connected with you, and really just help uplift our young women.
Oh, absolutely. Well, Lady Ray, thank you so much for being a guest on Straight Talking with Kelly, where real conversations happen. To my listening audience, thank you for listening. Come back. Make sure you hit that subscribe button,
yes,
like it, and share it. Share this information. Get this information out about Lady Ray. Lady Ray, thanks again, and we'll be in touch, okay?
Yes, thank you, Kelly. Take care.